When the political season started, nobody thought that Donald Trump will be where he is today. And there's a sense in which you can say Donald Trump is an underdog. But look where he is today. Regardless of what got him there, he's an underdog. You don't have to agree with him, but he's an underdog. Ben Carson is an underdog. Who thought a neurosurgeon will be out there in the polls, might be the next president of the United States of America? He's an underdog. The Democrats also have an underdog. Bernie. Feel the bird? It's an underdog. So you understand what an underdog is. An underdog is somebody who nobody expects to shine. Or nobody expects to accomplish something. That's an underdog. Have you ever been considered an underdog? No. We all can look back in school. Look back in some class that we went to and we were an underdog. Nobody thought we would make it. But look where we are today. There was a time when financially you never thought that you would make it. And people never thought you were an underdog. I remember when there was a certain fighter by the name of Mike Tyson. And it was in 1990 that Mike Tyson had a fight. He was 42-1. And a little known guy by the name of Buster Douglas whipped his butt. An underdog. In the 1920s, I don't remember exactly what year it was. I know Brother Jackson back there would remember this. There was a horse by the name of Tug of War, Man of War rather.
Man of War.
Yeah. Oh, you go all the way back there? Man of War had won 20 races. And everybody thought, boy, no horse ever would ever beat Man of War. And everybody says, oh, Man of War will retire, and nobody. And then finally there was this horse.
Yeah, I got two combat.
This horse that went off at 100-1 and beat Man of War. What was the name of that horse? Upset. True story. Upset. Came in and beat Man of War, and Man of War was not able to. But I want to talk about another, and these girls, they did a great job reading this morning. Yeah. Good job reading. That story of David is a great story because David was the underdog. So I want to talk about David as an underdog. And so I want to talk about David and understanding quite well that I don't know what is God's problem. But God seems always to be on the side of the underdog. God always seems, and it seems as though God specializes in lifting up underdogs. And if you have ever been considered an underdog, you will appreciate that God is always on the side of the underdog. And even in the scriptures, there are a lot of people that ain't all that. But God redeemed them And the fact that we read their stories today is because God is the God of the underdog. Noah got drunk. But yet we can say, God redeemed Noah. Abraham told a big fat lie about his wife. But yet God redeemed Abraham. Sarah, when she was pregnant, Isis, we doing all right? When Sarah got pregnant and her husband was 90-something years old, and the angel came and told Sarah that she was pregnant, Sarah just laughed. Ain't no Viagra baby around here. She just laughed in the face of God. But yet God redeemed her. Jacob was a deceiver, but God redeemed Jacob. Rahab was a prostitute, but yet she was in the line, in the lineage of Jesus. Moses was a murderer, murdered the Egyptian, but yet God seems to be always on the side of the underdog. What is God's problem? Gideon was fearful, yet God was able to redeem him. Eli failed as a father. David was an adulterer and a murderer. Solomon married foreign wives. But what is it with God that God is always on the side of the underdog? So for a few moments, I want to look in the life of David and to point out to you the 4 different times that it seems to me that God was on the side of the underdog. First of all, the passage that was read today, 1 Samuel 16, is the story of the people of Israel. They had gotten to the place where they said, we want a king, we want a king, and God did not want to give them a king. And they kept saying, we want a king, we want a king, and God says, no, you really don't want a king. And of course, God gave them Saul. And then Saul messed up. And God reminded them over and over again, I told you, don't be like the other nations. You don't need a king. They said yes, and they got Saul. And then Saul messed up. And God kept getting to Saul, and God says, Saul, I've anointed you and appointed you king. And then God finally got to the place. God said, no, that's it. And God came to Samuel, and God said, Samuel, I want you to get another king because I'm lifting my hand off of Saul. He's a mess. And the day finally came and God says, all right, gather all the people, we're going to have a party. And they had a nice little party, and God says, but when we have this party, there's a guy by the name of Jesse. I want you to make sure that Jesse is here. Who in the world is Jesse? Yes, Jesse the farmer. I want you to get Jesse here and tell Jesse, bring all of his sons with him. And so everybody gathered and they said, well, isn't that the story you read earlier on? Okay, so they all gathered, and when they gathered, and Samuel told them, he says, God is going to anoint a king today. And he says, there is a guy by the name of Jesse. And he calls Jesse up. He says, Jesse, come on up here. And Jesse has no clue what's going on. And Jesse comes up, and Jesse says, what's the matter? And Samuel says, look, Jesse, God has told me that one of your sons is going to be the next king of Israel. And then Jesse says, my gosh, I feel honored. And Jesse knows he's got some big strapping sons. And Jesse says, my God, Saul is 6 foot something. At least one of my sons, oh yeah, one of them could be king. And of course, Jesse starts off, and Jesse calls the son number 1. And Jesse says, come on and strut so that Samuel could see. And he gets up, he's like Denzel Washington. He gets up and he goes across. And Jesse knows that maybe he could make it. And Samuel looks at Samuel and says, Jesse, no, make it. That's not the one. And Jesse says, wait a minute, I got another one, you know, I made a whole lot of them. And the second son comes, and the second son models, and he walks across. And Samuel says, no, I'm sorry. 6 sons walk by, and not one of them. And Jesse is like, my heart is broken. All of these, my sons have come, and you haven't chosen any one of them. And Samuel says, Jesse, are you holding back something on me? Is this it? Are these all of your sons? And then Jesse says, oh yeah, I remember now. You just remember? And he says, yeah, there's one more left, you know. But I don't think you want to see. Isn't God the God of the underdog? He says, there's one more, but I left him. I left him with the sheep. He's short, you know. He ain't got much muscle. He's malnourished. He always reached to the table late. Samuel says, where is he? Isn't he one of your sons? I told you bring all of your sons. He said, yeah, but he ain't nothing. And Samuel says, I want to see him. And they sent all the messengers, and here is David tending the sheep and minding his own business. And they said, hey David, Samuel wants to see you. David said, no, he doesn't. What, he wants to kill me? And he said, no, I don't know why, but he wants to see you. And as the girls read, the moment Samuel saw David, the runt, Samuel says, that's it. That's it. Doesn't God work in mysterious ways? What did God see in this little runt? What did God see in this little David? But that's how God works, because God specializes in the underdogs. Amen. The son that Jesse didn't think could make it, the very son that the firstborn didn't take, that's the son, and God says, that's him. And Samuel, as he looks at David, Samuel says, that's it. The God of the underdog. And then there's a war that's going on, and Samuel, of course, David, of course, is anointed. He doesn't become king right away, but he is now anointed king, so David is the man. And then there's a guy in the village by the name of Goliath. And Goliath is terrorizing everybody. Goliath is much taller than Gerald. I mean, he up there. And Goliath has got all this armor. And Goliath is terrorizing the Israelites. And the day finally came when Goliath says, he sends out an issue. He says, send somebody out there to fight me. I'm ready to destroy anybody. Send somebody out here. And of course, there were three ways really in which the armies in those days used to fight. Number one was the cavalry. And so the cavalry were the guys on the horses. And you know, whenever you fight it, you have guys who specialize, guys who are on the horses, and they will get out there. And of course, and then there are the foot soldiers. And then there's one specialty that you find in every army in those days. Were the guys who specialized in slingshots. Every army had their slingshot guys. So when Goliath looked, and Goliath is expecting. He is not cavalry. Goliath is the soldier on the outside with all the machinery around him. Goliath is out there. He's got the brass he's got the shields, he's got a whole armor, and he's expecting that somebody just like that will come from the Philistines' army. And Goliath says, send somebody out here, send somebody out here. And then somebody says, hey David, you want to go fight him? Saul is still king, and Saul says, David, you need to go fight him. And David says, okay, I'll go fight. I ain't got no horse, so at least I can't be in the cavalry. And Saul says, don't worry about it, David. Let me just tell you this. One of the soldiers died, and all his armor is still in the corner. We're going to put it on you. So he calls him and he says, come here, come here. Yeah. He was a white boy then. So he takes David, and he said, David, you haven't seen him yet, but there's this Goliath out there. And David, what we're going to do with you, we're going to fit you with an armor. And they take David and they put this armor on. And they say, David, lift up your arm. And David said, man, I can't lift nothing. this is too much. And Saul says, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. You can see if you can walk. Could you walk? He said, no, I can't walk with all of this. But I can't go and fight. And he says, and he tries all day, he spends a few hours trying to walk and trying to see if he can go fight. And finally he says, okay, thank you. Good job giving out the bulletins today. Thank you. You got a job now. And the check is in the mail, don't worry about it. And David finally says, I've got a God, the God of the underdog. Don't worry about it. I got something for Goliath. And when Goliath saw David, of course, he goes and he says, let me tell you, I'm going with what I specialize in. Yeah, it's interesting. This is the way. There is this sling. And that's what David knew. No, my pants ain't gonna drop in today. David says, no, I specialize. There's this one part of the army where there are guys, just like you have snipers today. There are guys who specialize in the sling. They will take a stone, and they tell me for 200, these guys, they will take a stone and put it in there. And just like you do with the discus or whatever they have in the thing, they would spin around a few times. And when they let that stone go, they have pinpoint accuracy for 200 yards. And that's what David specialized in. And Goliath saw David, and Goliath says, who in the world will send that little... Let him come. But the fact is, what David specialized in, he didn't have to come close to Goliath. And Goliath is out there saying, send him up here, send him up there. David said, no, I don't even have to come all the way up there. God specializes in the underdog. And then, I like what David did. David got 5 stones. Did you say something, Ann? David got 5 stones. And he prepares to go up. And as you look into the story, the reason why he got 5 stones is that Goliath had 4 brothers. So David says, okay, I got 5 stones right here. Now I'm going to swing this, and if I kill him, if the other brothers come, I got something for them too. And on that day, the God of the underdog came into play. And David, while Goliath is saying, let him come closer, come on closer, boy, come on closer. David said, no, I ain't have to come close, watch this. And David, under the power of God, under the Spirit of God, David just around and around and around. And when that stone let loose, it hit Goliath right. Second instance, God of the underdog. But there's another instance where, in the life of David, we saw the God of the underdog. And that was in the life of Saul. David was married to Saul's daughter. You know, in-laws are such a pain sometimes. Not all of them. My in-law is dead. My mother-in-law, no, she was cool. She had money. Anytime your mother-in-law got money, you all right. She got money when she come around. We was poor. When my mother-in-law come around, we used to look for my mother-in-law, and she come, she go and she shop and she give Jean money. If Jean got money, I got money. She would come. My mother-in-law had money, so never. When you get ready to get married, marry into money. But Michal was Saul's daughter, and David got married to her. And David thought, well, I'm married into money, and everything is going to be cool. And then when David slew Goliath, all of a sudden, women will get you in trouble all the time, and all them women start running. Saul has slain his thousands, but David has slain his 10,000. Saul has slain his thousands, but David has slain 10,000. And all of them, they got David in trouble, and all of a sudden, Saul began to get jealous, and Saul said, no, I'm getting rid of David. Somehow, Saul understood that the hand of God was on David, and Saul said, no, I'm going to get rid of him. And the story goes on, and of course, all the different places in which David and Saul decided. Saul says, I'm going to kill him. Saul had a son by the name of Jonathan. This God of the underdog always finds a way to make a way for you. You don't have to worry about it. If God is on your side, God will make a way. And Saul had this son named Jonathan, and somehow by God's Spirit, Jonathan got to like David. And Jonathan and David were friends, and Jonathan will get to David, and Jonathan will say, hey, my father wants to kill you, man. I overheard the conversation. My father's going to kill you. And David says, no, you must have overheard. It must have been something. And Jonathan says, no, I eavesdropped. I heard them talking. And they are making a plan. They want to kill you. And as a matter of fact, they had a nice dinner. And David was invited. And Jonathan came. And Jonathan says, let me just tell you, hey, that ain't a dinner. Every dinner ain't a dinner. He said, I think my father's got something up. And they got to the dinner, and Jonathan got to David, and Jonathan says, look, during the dinner, I want you to keep your eyes on me, because I think they're planning to kill you. My father is planning to kill you. And during the dinner time, Jonathan says, keep your eyes on me. And of course, you know the story during that dinner. Saul got the javelin, and David is sitting down there having a good time. And Saul looked, and Saul just threw the javelin, and the javelin, and there was Jonathan, who was able to make a signal to David and says, watch out. And of course, he was able to duck and got away from the javelin and went to the hit. This God that showed God's self as the God of the underdog, as Saul just determined to kill. There was a certain place where David got to Saul, and David saw the army. The army was there, and the army of Saul was there, and David happened to go in, and David looked, and David saw Saul was sleeping. He was hunting for David, looking for David, and here David saw him, and David had a good sense of humor. David saw Saul sleeping, and David could have killed him. David took the sword. And David, those men, they wear skirts those days. And David came, and David just took the edge of just the tip of his skirt, and David just cut the skirt. And then he sent it back to Saul, so that Saul could understand how close David got to him. The God of the underdog. And God showed himself as the underdog, even in the life of that encounter between Saul. And finally, showing the underdog. The ultimate underdog is shown in the life of this guy by the name of Mephibosheth. You would think that after David is king now Saul is no longer there, and David is now the king, and one day David does something that you would not expect. He came all as it's what you call a goodie, all the way from left. David is king, and you would think that now you are king, you would be rejoicing and you would celebrate. But David, one day, David goes out on the porch, and David says, "Is there anybody left of the house of Saul? I would like to bless that person because of Jonathan." And the word gets out there. Is there anybody left? I would like to bless that person. Is there anybody left of the house of Saul? I would like to bless that person because of Jonathan. You see, there's a difference between a contract and a covenant. This covenant, and the Old Testament talks a lot about covenant. God making a covenant with God's people. There was one day that Jonathan and David had a conversation. And Jonathan said to David, "David, I know one day you're going to be king. And I know what kings do when they fight war. They go in and they kill everybody." He says, "I know when you become king, you're going to kill Saul and you're going to kill all of God's people. David, promise me this one thing. That my family, when you destroy all of my father's people, could you promise me that you're going to be nice to my family?" And it is on this day that David goes out there. He says, "David, the army had wiped all of Saul's people out." And on this day, David goes out and David says, "Is there anybody?" David remembered that covenant that he made with Jonathan many years ago. And then he says, "Is there anybody left of Saul's family? I want to bless them." And there's Ziba. And there is Ziba, and Ziba is a servant. And Ziba says, yes, there is one person I know that's left from Saul's family. And his name is Mephibosheth. We call him Phoebe. Mephibosheth is crippled in both legs. When Mephibosheth was 3 years old, the nurse who was taking care of Mephibosheth, the army was coming, and the nurse got a hold of Mephibosheth, and she was running with Mephibosheth. She fell, and Mephibosheth fell, and Mephibosheth from that day was crippled in both legs. And Mephibosheth is hiding. Now that David is king and all of Saul's family is dead, Mephibosheth is alive, but crippled. And Ziba says, yes, one person left, and he's hiding. And David says, bring Mephibosheth. I want to see Mephibosheth. And word gets to Ziba, and Ziba says, what? And of course, I like the words that Mephibosheth used. When they brought Mephibosheth to David, and Mephibosheth says, why have you called for me so that you can kill me as you have killed all of Saul's people and all of Jonathan's people? And Mephibosheth used the words to David, who am I that you should care for a dead dog like me? The underdog. And David says, Mephibosheth, I have called for you and all these servants, all these people that have, all Ziba's family. And David says, you are not a dead dog. You're just an underdog. But I know the God of the underdog. And David used the statement that day. David says, Ziba, from this day, You're not going back to that little place that you lived, crawling around. But from this day, you will eat at my table. You will eat in my house. You will live in, that's what God does to underdogs. You will live in my house. My servants will be your servants. All of Ziba's children will serve you. That's what God does to the underdog. From this day, you, Mephibosheth, will eat at my table. Have you ever felt like an underdog? Let me just remind you, God is the God of the underdog. God will see you through, as God saw Mephibosheth through, as God saw David through in the different areas in which he was the underdog. I'm so glad that I know God is the God of the underdog. I know that. Nobody has to tell me that. I am the super underdog. I am a witness that God is the God of the underdog. I know that. I don't have to read that anywhere. I know that. If you're an immigrant, you know that you've been an underdog. I remember coming to this country with $68 in my pocket in 1968. Coming to Kennedy Airport, $68 in my pocket. They tell me you'll find a job anywhere, you just go and you'll find a job. $68 coming to the Kennedy Airport. I remember that. Got here on my birthday in 1968. And 2 days after that it snowed. And I know I want to go back to Trinidad. And I took a cup and I didn't know what snow is supposed to be. I remember, I'd taken a cup and putting it through the window and catching the snow and pouring Coca-Cola in there and drinking it. That's it, man. This is great. This is America. You don't have to buy snow cone. That's it. But just those days, looking back at that as an underdog, and yet this, look what God has done. And it hasn't all been rosy, it has been up and down, but I'm still a witness that God is the God of the underdog. If there's ever been brokenness in your life, you know I ought to remind you, God is the God of the underdog. God will see you through. Whatever ails you today, may I remind you, God is still the God of the underdog. Leave this place today understanding quite well, God is the God of the underdog. The men had a great day yesterday in the men's breakfast. And Eddie Rivera was the speaker. And Eddie Rivera spoke on prayer and what prayer can do. And Eddie talked about his 29-year-old son who is really like a vegetable. But he talked yesterday about he was resolved in his own mind that his son will never walk, will never be whatever. And Eddie talked about his wife, a woman of prayer. And Eddie said, my wife was convicted in her own mind that that's it. Our son will never amount to anything. Until one night she said, God, I just want you to do one thing for me. Even if you never heal my son, the one thing I want you to do for me is I want my son to communicate with me. I want to know when he's hungry, I want him to be able, I want to know that he's hungry. When he's in pain, I want to know he's in pain. And the next morning, his wife went to his son, and his son communicated. And Eddie says, that's all she wanted. God of the underdog. I feel sorry for you if you are not an underdog. You will never know the power of the blessings of God as an underdog. But if you are an underdog, my word to you is, hold on. Hold on. Your day is coming. Hold on. God is faithful to you, the underdog. And God will see you through. God bless you. God bless you. God will see you through. Let's sing something. Some of us are going over to